My family disowned me for my husband's past, but when I was named CEO of his Fortune 500 company, they wanted me back. So I gave them an offer they couldn't refuse, or so they thought. The day my mother gave me the ultimatum still burns in my memory like a fresh wound. I can picture every detail, the way her fingers gripped her wine glass, how my father's shoulders tensed, and the look of smug satisfaction on my sister Yasmin's face. My name is Alina, and 7 years ago, I chose love over family. Not that they saw it that way. It's him or us, my mother declared, her voice cutting through the tension in our family dining room. You can't possibly expect us to accept a man like that into our family. I stared at the text message from Landon lighting up my phone. Everything okay? I'm here if you need me. My fingers trembled as I set the phone face down on the table. Mom, you don't even know him, I protested, fighting to keep my voice steady. The charges were dropped. He was innocent. Innocent men don't get arrested in the first place. Yasmin chimed in, ever ready to twist the knife. God, Alina, how naive can you be? My brother Matthew sat silently, studying his plate as if it held the secrets of the universe. Typical. He never could handle confrontation. Your sister's right, Dad finally spoke, his words heavy with disappointment. We've worked too hard building our reputation in this community. What will people say when they find out our daughter is dating an ex-con? He was cleared of all charges. I slammed my hand on the table, making the silverware jump. He built his company from nothing, and now, enough. Mom's voice cracked like a whip. She set down her wine glass with deliberate precision. Alina, we're not asking you to choose. We're telling you how it's going to be. End things with Landon or don't bother coming back here. The silence that followed felt like a physical weight on my chest. I looked around the table at the faces I'd known all my life. Mom's stern disapproval, Dad's weary resignation, Yasmin's barely concealed satisfaction, and Matthew's studied indifference. You want me to choose? I stood up slowly, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. Fine. I choose him. Alina, Dad warned, think very carefully about what you're doing. I have thought about it. I've thought about how none of you bothered to meet him, to hear his side of the story, to see the amazing person he is. My voice grew stronger with each word. You're so worried about your precious reputation that you can't see past your own prejudices. Don't you dare lecture us about prejudice, Mom snapped. That man is that man, I cut her off, is the person I love. And if you can't accept that, then maybe I don't need this family. Yasmin laughed, a sharp, cruel sound. You'll come crawling back when he shows his true colors. Men like that don't change. I grabbed my phone and purse, my movements sharp and decisive. You know what's funny, Yasmin? At least Landon owned up to his mistakes and worked to become better. When was the last time any of you admitted to being wrong about anything? If you walk out that door, Mom said, her voice ice cold, don't expect to be welcomed back. I paused at the doorway, my hand on the frame. You know what, Mom? Right now, I can't imagine wanting to come back. The drive to Landon's apartment was a blur of tears and anger. When I pulled into his parking spot, he was already waiting outside, concern etched across his face. One look at me, and he knew. They made you choose? He asked softly as I fell into his arms. I nodded against his chest, breathing in the familiar scent of his cologne. I chose you. He pulled back slightly, his eyes searching mine. Alina, I can't let you give up your family for me. Maybe if I talk to them. No, I said firmly, wiping my eyes. They made their choice. I made mine. We'll build our own life, create our own family. Are you sure? His voice was gentle, but I could hear the worry underneath. I looked up at him, really looked at him. The man who had turned his life around, who had built something meaningful from nothing, who loved me without conditions or ultimatums. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. That night, as we lay in bed, my phone buzzed with messages from my family. I turned it off without reading them. The choice was made, the die cast. I didn't know then that this decision would set in motion events that would change all our lives forever. But that's the thing about choices. You never really know their full impact until years later when you look back and realize that some bridges, once burned, leave ashes that never quite cool. 7 years can change everything. I stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of our penthouse office, watching the city buzz 40 stories below. My reflection showed a woman my family wouldn't recognize, polished, confident, successful. The scared girl who drove away from their house that night was gone. Mrs. CEO, Landon's voice came from behind me. The board is waiting. I turned to face my husband, straightening my blazer. Still feels surreal. You earned this, he said, squeezing my shoulder. Every single bit of it. The journey flashed through my mind. Our first tiny office, the late nights, the endless cups of coffee. We built this empire together, brick by digital brick. Remember our first client meeting? I asked as we walked toward the boardroom, that startup that thought we were too small to handle their security needs. Landon laughed. Now they're one of our biggest clients. You convinced them to take a chance on us. We convinced them, I corrected. You with your brilliant software, me with my pitch. The boardroom doors opened to reveal 20 faces turned expectantly toward us. My best friend Hazel, our chief marketing officer, gave me a subtle thumbs up. Ladies and gentlemen, Landon addressed the room. As founder of SecureFlow, I've made many decisions over the years, but naming our new CEO? He turned to me with pride in his eyes. That was the easiest choice I've ever made. The applause felt like validation, not just of my abilities, but of every choice that led me here. After the meeting, Hazel cornered me in my new office. Okay, spill. How does it feel to be the youngest female CEO of a Fortune 500 company? I sank into my chair, finally letting my professional mask slip. Honestly, it feels like vindication. Have you heard from them? Hazel knew about my family. She'd been there through everything. Not since last year's Christmas card was returned unopened. I pulled up our company's latest press release on my computer, but this announcement might change that. You think they'll reach out now that you're successful? I know they will. I clicked through our stock prices, all trending upward. Money and status are the only things they truly respect. And when they do, Hazel perched on my desk, her expression concerned. What then? Before I could answer, my assistant Sarah buzzed in. Miss Alina, your husband's here with champagne. Landon entered carrying a bottle and 3 glasses. Hope I'm not interrupting. Just girl talk. Hazel winked. Well, this calls for celebration. He poured the champagne with practiced ease. To my brilliant wife, who took a small cybersecurity startup and helped transform it into a billion-dollar company. To us, I corrected raising my glass, to proving everyone wrong. Later that night, as Landon and I walked home through the city streets, he brought up what we'd both been thinking. Your family will see the announcement. Let them see it. I stepped over a puddle, my heels clicking on the pavement. Let them see exactly what they threw away. You never told me what you'd do if they tried to reconcile. I stopped walking, turning to face him under the glow of a street lamp. Remember what you said when we started the company? Success is the best revenge? He nodded, realization dawning in his eyes. You've been planning for this. 7 years is a long time to think about justice. I resumed walking, my stride purposeful. If they reach out, when they reach out, I'll be ready. Alina? His tone carried a warning. Don't worry, I assured him, taking his hand. Everything I do will be completely legal, just like you taught me. At home, I stood on our balcony looking out at the city lights. My phone buzzed with congratulatory messages from colleagues and friends. Soon, I knew there would be other messages, different messages. Landon joined me, wrapping his arms around my waist. Whatever you're planning, just remember, we built all this together. Don't let them take away your peace. I leaned back against him, feeling the steady beat of his heart. They took away my family. My peace was collateral damage. We made our own family, he reminded me. Look at everything we've achieved. He was right, of course. We had everything. Success, respect, love. But some wounds don't heal clean. Sometimes they leave scars that itch for resolution. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was an email from our PR team with tomorrow's newspaper headlines. SecureFlow names new CEO, the rise of Alina Simmons. I smiled, knowing that somewhere in the city, my family would be reading those same headlines over their morning coffee. The thought filled me with a satisfaction I hadn't felt in years. The game was about to begin, and I had all the pieces in place. The call came exactly 3 days after the announcement. I was in my office reviewing quarterly reports when Sarah's voice crackled through the intercom. Miss Alina, there's a Yasmin Fuller on line 1. She says she's your sister. My hand hovered over the phone. 3 days. Longer than I'd expected, but right on schedule. Put her through, I said, straightening in my chair. Alina? Yasmin's voice hadn't changed. Still that same sugary sweetness that masked a serpent's tongue. It's been so long. 7 years, 2 months, and 16 days. I kept my voice neutral. But who's counting? A nervous laugh. I saw the news. CEO of SecureFlow. We're all so proud. We, I interrupted. And who exactly is we, Yasmin? The family, of course. Mom and Dad, Matthew. We've all been following your success. I pulled up my email, clicking through to a folder labeled Family. Inside were screenshots of their social media posts over the years, their carefully curated lives, never once mentioning me. How interesting, I said. I must have missed all your congratulatory messages along the way. About that she paused, and I could picture her rehearsing her next words. We may have been hasty in our judgment, about everything. About Landon. Hasty? I laughed, the sound sharp enough to cut. That's what you're calling it? People change, Alina. We've changed, and clearly, we were wrong about Landon. Look at everything you've built together. I pressed my fingertips against my desk, grounding myself. Why are you calling, Yasmin? Really? Another pause. I miss my sister. We all miss you. Matthew's getting married next month, and Mom and Dad's 40th anniversary is coming up. It feels wrong not having you there. And the fact that I'm now CEO of a Fortune 500 company has nothing to do with this sudden attack of conscience? That's not fair, she protested. We're family. We were family, I corrected, 7 years ago, when I needed you most. Can't we move past that? Meet for coffee maybe? Just you and me? The door opened and Hazel walked in, stopping short when she saw me on the phone. I waved her in. You know what? I said to Yasmin. Coffee sounds perfect. Tomorrow 10 a.m. at Riverside Cafe. Really? The surprise in her voice was almost comical. That's wonderful. I'll be there. After hanging up, I turned to Hazel. Right on schedule. That was her? Hazel dropped into the chair across from me. What did she want? Exactly what we predicted. Family reunions, wedding invitations, and a healthy dose of guilt tripping. And you agreed to meet her? I smiled, pulling up a different folder on my computer. Of course, it's all part of the plan. Elena. Hazel leaned forward. Are you sure about this? Revenge might feel good in the moment, but this isn't just revenge. I cut her off. This is justice. They need to understand what they did. My phone buzzed. A text from Landon. Yasmin called you? News travels fast, I muttered, typing back, yes. Meeting her tomorrow. His response was immediate. Want me there? No, I replied. I need to do this alone. Hazel was watching me carefully. What exactly are you planning? I turned my monitor toward her, showing the event details for SecureFlow's upcoming 10th anniversary gala, the biggest tech celebration of the year. Every major player in the industry will be there. Press, celebrities, influencers, and your family? They'll receive very special invitations. After all, I smiled, we're reconciling. This seems elaborate even for you. 7 years gives you time to plan. I stood up walking to the window. They didn't just reject me, Hazel. They tried to break me. They wanted me to fail, to come crawling back, proving them right. But you didn't. No, I didn't. And now they want to pretend none of it happened, to slip back into my life now that it's convenient. I turned back to her. They don't get to do that. My phone buzzed again. Yasmin confirming tomorrow's meeting. Perfect. Just be careful, Hazel warned. Don't let this consume you. I nodded, but my mind was already racing ahead, plotting each move like a chess game. Tomorrow would be the opening gambit, appearing receptive, vulnerable, ready to reconcile. Yasmin would report back to the others, and then trust me, I told Hazel. Everything is going exactly as planned. As she left, I pulled up the gala invitation template on my screen. It would be perfect, elegant, exclusive, promising everything my status-obsessed family couldn't resist. They thought they were orchestrating a reunion. In reality, they were walking right into my carefully laid trap, and I couldn't wait to spring it. Riverside Cafe buzzed with morning energy as I watched Yasmin approach my table. She looked exactly the same. Designer handbag, perfect makeup, practiced smile. I stood to greet her, accepting her tentative hug with calculated warmth. You look amazing, she gushed, sliding into her seat. Success suits you. Coffee first, I smiled, signaling the waiter. Then we can talk. Once our orders arrived, Yasmin launched into her carefully rehearsed speech. We've all changed so much, Elena. Matthew's found someone wonderful. Mom's mellowed out. And Dad, he keeps your newspaper coverage in his study. How touching. I stirred my latte slowly. And you, still working at the boutique? Her smile faltered slightly. Actually, I've been thinking about a career change. The fashion industry is so volatile these days. I took a sip watching her over the rim of my cup. What did you have in mind? Well, she leaned forward conspiratorially. I heard SecureFlow is expanding its marketing department. There it was. I bit back a smile. Is that what this is about, Yasmin? A job? No. She reached across the table, grabbing my hand. This is about family, about making things right. The job, that would just be a bonus, a chance to work together like sisters should. I pulled my hand away, reaching into my bag. Speaking of family, I withdrew 4 elegant black envelopes. These are for you, Matthew, Mom, and Dad. Her eyes widened as she took them. What are they? Invitations to SecureFlow's 10th anniversary gala, next month at the Grand Plaza Hotel. Very exclusive. Celebrities, tech giants, press coverage. The perfect place for a family reunion, don't you think? Alina, this is I don't know what to say. Say you'll come, all of you. I leaned forward. Let's show everyone that the past is behind us. Back at the office, Hazel was waiting in my private conference room. How did it go? Like taking candy from a baby. I kicked off my heels, sinking into a chair. She practically salivated over the invitations. And she bought it? The reconciliation? People believe what they want to believe. I pulled up the gala security protocols on my tablet. She thinks she's manipulating me. That's what makes it perfect. Hazel studied the plans. Private security at every entrance, guest list verification, media coverage, this is thorough. It has to be. I showed her the special instructions for my family's arrival. When they're turned away at the door in front of everyone, you're going to humiliate them publicly. They'll feel exactly what I felt that night. Rejected, exposed, humiliated. I scrolled through the media list, and this time, there will be cameras. Have you told Landon? I shook my head. He knows something's coming, but not the details. Plausible deniability. My phone buzzed. A text from Yasmin. Everyone's so excited about the gala. Mom's already shopping for a dress. Perfect. I murmured, showing Hazel the message. Alina? Hazel set down the tablet. I get why you're doing this, but revenge has a way of backfiring. This isn't just revenge. I stood walking to the window. This is about consequences. They thought they could waltz back into my life when it suited them. Use me for connections and jobs. They need to understand that actions have repercussions. And after, what then? Then I move forward. No more looking back. No more wondering what if. Clean slate. The door opened and Landon entered, looking between us. Everything okay? Just finalizing gala details, I said smoothly. How was your meeting? Good. He studied my face. Yasmin called, said you were very receptive. I can be very convincing when I need to be. He exchanged a look with Hazel. Whatever you're planning, trust me. I cut him off. Please. Later that night, I reviewed the security footage from the cafe meeting, watched Yasmin's calculated performance, her practiced sincerity. My phone kept buzzing with messages from Matthew and my parents, all suddenly eager to reconnect. I opened my laptop, pulling up the email I'd prepared. Subject line, Media Advisory, Secure Flow Gala Promises Surprise Announcements. My finger hovered over the send button. Once this went out, there would be no turning back. The press would be primed, cameras ready. I thought about 7 years of silence, of holidays spent alone, of wedding invitations that never came. I pressed send. The pieces were in motion now. In 1 month, my family would arrive at the Grand Plaza Hotel dressed in their finest, ready to capitalize on my success. Instead, they'd find locked doors and rolling cameras. Sometimes the best revenge isn't served cold. It's served with a spotlight. The Grand Plaza Hotel gleamed like a jewel in the evening light. From my private security room, I watched the monitors as guests began arriving. Each screen showed a different angle. The main entrance, side doors, VIP access points. No detail left to chance. They're here, Hazel announced, pointing to a monitor showing my family stepping out of a black SUV. My mother emerged first, resplendent in a designer gown. Dad followed, adjusting his bow tie. Matthew and his fiancée, then Yasmin bringing up the rear. Right on time, I murmured, checking my watch. Begin Operation Lockout. The head of security, Marcus, spoken to his radio. All units in position, commence Protocol 7. I watched as they approached the main entrance, my mother leading the charge like a general into battle. The security guard checked his tablet. Names, please. Lynch party of 5, my mother announced with practiced authority. We're personal guests of Alina Simmons. The guard frowned at his tablet. I'm sorry. I'm not seeing those names on the list. There must be some mistake. My mother's voice carried clearly through the speakers. We're her family. Ma'am, if you're not on the list, I can't let you in. Yasmin pushed forward. Call Alina. She'll sort this out. I'm afraid Miss Simmons has given strict instructions not to be disturbed. The guard's voice remained professionally neutral. You'll need to step aside for other guests. The cameras caught every detail. My mother's reddening face, my father's clenched jaw, Yasmin's growing panic. Matthew and his fiancée shifted uncomfortably as other guests began to stare. This is ridiculous, my mother hissed. We have invitations. She thrust the black envelope at the guard who examined it briefly. I'm sorry, ma'am, but these invitations appear to be invalid. A reporter nearby perked up sensing drama. Excuse me, did you say you're Alina Simmons' family? Yes. Yasmin jumped in, desperate for an ally. There's clearly been a mix-up. Interesting, the reporter cut in, because Miss Simmons has publicly stated she has no family. The cameras caught my mother's face crumpling, then hardening. We are very much her family. And when I speak to her, ma'am, Marcus stepped forward, right on cue. If you continue to create a disturbance, we'll have to escort you off the property. More reporters were gathering now, phones recording. My family's humiliation was being captured in real time, just as planned. Alina. My father's voice boomed across the entrance. Alina, we know you can hear us. Should we intervene? Hazel asked softly. I shook my head, eyes fixed on the monitors. Not yet. Security began to move in, forming a barrier between my family and the entrance. Guests streamed past them, whispering and pointing. "You can't do this to us." Yasmin was nearly crying now. "We're family. Family," I whispered to the screen. Where was family when I needed you? The media was in a feeding frenzy, capturing every moment of their undignified exit. Matthew practically dragged his fiancée away, while my parents stood their ground until Marcus personally escorted them to their car. "Miss Simmons," Sarah's voice came through my earpiece. "You're needed for the opening speech in 5 minutes." I stood, smoothing my dress. "How do I look, Hazel?" "Like someone who just won a war." She paused. "Are you sure about this?" They needed to understand. I checked my reflection one last time. 7 years ago, they threw me away like I was nothing. Tonight, they learned what that feels like. The ballroom was packed when I took the stage. Cameras flashed as I approached the microphone. My smile perfectly practiced. "Welcome to SecureFlow's 10th anniversary celebration." I began scanning the crowd. "Tonight is about family. Not the family you're born into, but the family you choose." My eyes found Landon in the crowd, standing with our executive team.